Derby County face some huge injury doubts heading into the opening game of the Championship season, as well as a range of players which we knew were going to be out anyway. And it is a bit disappointing to see the players which are missing. Obviously, some of them new signings, some of them obviously formerly at the club anyway. And as much as it's disappointing to see those players missing, I think it's also positive that we can see those lads that during pre-season have had key moments and shown us exactly what they're capable of. And I think it's good to give them the opportunity during the early season to fully give themselves a chance in the actual Championship rather than just in pre-season games. And that's obviously something which we're going to have to see across the course of the next few weeks. Now, obviously, within this video, we're going to cover all the injury doubts, all the players who may be available, and all the players who are set to be out, which we already know of. But that is going to come within this video. So obviously, if you have not done so already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. We are going to be live on Saturday afternoon, watching along the Derby County versus Stoke City fixture. I'll be answering all your questions regarding team selection and all that jazz in regards to performance and things like that. So if you have not done so already, make sure the notification bell's on so you get notified when I do go live. Now, if you haven't done so already, let's get into it. Now, obviously, in regards to those players that Derby County have brought to the club, we know that a few are sort of struggling injury-wise, and some of them didn't come in 100% fit, and that's obviously something which we're going to see heading into this weekend's fixture with, obviously, Stoke City. And there's obviously a couple of players who were here last season as well who are out injured. Now, if we look at those players from last season who continue to be out, you've obviously got the likes of Curtis Nelson, you've got the likes of Sondre Langas, and you've got the likes of Lars-Jørgen Selverson as well as Kane Wilson, who are all set to be out for the opening game of the season. And obviously that's disappointing, but they're injuries which we knew were going to miss the start of the season anyway. The hope was that Wilson and Selverson would be back fit and available, but there was always that risk of them having to have a second surgery in regards to their knees in order to make sure they're 100% clear and ready to go, because the last thing you want is for those players to be playing on injuries and not sort of being in the right position and being in the right fitness, because then if they pick up another one, they just end up sort of out again, and that's not what you want at all, in my opinion. And I think it's the right move by Derby in order to make sure that they're 100% focused and 100% fit, rather than sort of rushing them back for pre-season and things like that, which ultimately they could have done. But for me, it is absolutely the right call. Now, if we look at obviously a couple of players who are sort of 50-50 in regards to this weekend, you've got to look at centre-back and left-back Matt Clark and Owen Beck. Obviously, Owen Beck is yet to make an appearance in a Derby County shirt, was on the bench versus Burton Albion, but unfortunately picked up a little knock in that warm-up. I'm guessing it was in the warm-up, which ultimately has kept him out since then. The aim is that hopefully he'll be back and ready for Saturday, but at the moment he's sitting at 50-50. Matt Clark picked up an injury within the early moments of that game, and unfortunately he is also 50-50 and may not be available heading into this weekend. But obviously the aim is for them to be available, but obviously no rush. It's the first game of the season. There's 46 games of just league football. That's not including at minimum 2 cup games as well, not including if we go further through it, and that's obviously something which John Eustace and his coaching staff have got to deal with across the course of this season. Now, in terms of players who were maybe potentially expected to be out, you've got to look at David Ozo. John Eustace made it clear yesterday that he is fit and available. Whether he'll start or not wasn't obviously cleared, and that's obviously an important thing to do by John Eustace. You don't want to give your squad away too early. But David Ozo should be involved this weekend, and it'll obviously be a big thing for him to be back out on the pitch, not just at all, but with Derby County, the team who he has unfinished business with heading into this season. There obviously is the conversation regarding Patrick Agyemang. He is out up until pretty much the international break. Obviously had to have surgery on a hernia. Obviously, hopefully he'll be back across the course of the next couple of weeks. But obviously the important thing is making sure that Derby County are fully fit for as many games as possible, rather than sort of putting themselves in a shit position long term by forcing these players back or making them play on injuries this early into the season when it's not really necessary. It might put us in a bad position in terms of the first 4 or 5 games, but long term it'll put us in a better position. And I think many of you will agree with me in regards of we'd rather have the best possible team available for 35 games than have the best possible team available for just 15 games. So we're going to have to wait and see sort of how long it takes for these players to get back fit and things along those lines. But obviously that's something which will grow across the course of this season. Now, in terms of players who aren't going to be available, and that has been confirmed by John Eustace, not down to injuries but purely down to fitness, you have Bobby Clark and Rhian Brewster. Brewster hasn't had a pre-season and is going through a pre-season programme with Derby County's medical staff and sports scientists and things like that, which is obviously massively important for Brewster to make sure he's back fit and available. As I've said about the players that are injured, the important thing is making sure that they are ready to go long term rather than just straight away, and that's obviously something which you can't force, you can't rush, and obviously with Brewster's injury history, that's obviously something which we've got to keep an eye on. Now, Bobby Clark, John Eustace believes has only played 10 minutes during pre-season. Again, similar to that of Rhian Brewster, not really had a pre-season, still got to go through his sort of programme, and hopefully that will sort of fix itself over the course of the next few weeks, where he'll hopefully get himself in the squad just before the international break. But realistically, I think a lot of these players we're not going to see until after that first international break, which will be, I think it's Preston, the game after that, which is I think 20th of September. But you can obviously let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. There's obviously a couple of players who are doubtful but have played during pre-season in regards of potentially starting. You've got the likes of Andy Vyman, Joe Ward and Ryan Niambi, who have all made pre-season appearances for Derby County, but I don't think any of them have done over 45 minutes, which obviously makes them a doubt heading into this Saturday's fixture, and I don't necessarily think that they're going to start in the slightest this weekend. I think they'll probably be on the bench and get on for that second half, but obviously the important thing is, again, making sure they're fit, ready and available. And obviously you've got the situation in regards to some of the youth talent that's played across the course of the last few weeks. If you look at the likes of Isaac Gordon, you look at Charles Abuka, Dejan Brown, they obviously have that opportunity to sort of move forward across the course of the next few weeks, and potentially they could find themselves within the squad. Obviously, I think Tuesday night is a cup game up against, I think it's West Brom, if I remember rightly, where Derby County will probably rotate their squad, and obviously that will then give those sort of youngsters potentially the opportunity to prove themselves at the senior level against a high quality opposition. But obviously at the moment we're sort of none the wiser as to where those sort of young players fit in, but we're going to have to wait and see sort of how that all shakes out. Obviously Ben Osborne's another one of those players who hasn't really played during pre-season, and we're sort of going to have to wait and see where he fits in once sort of they all get fit and available. And obviously there's always the chance that players move on, there's always the chance that players leave, and we're going to have to sort of wait and see how that sort of shakes out. Obviously John Eustace yesterday mentioning the opportunity for players to leave out on loan, but obviously that all depends on fitness of other players. But you can obviously let me know what you do down in the comments, and if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll catch you live on Saturday.